Announcing the commencement of the first purge.
I want you to change the world, and don't think that this is going to happen peacefully or you can do it alone. We need to kill the rich. You get out there, you use your weapons, and you rip Washington apart. You hunt down the billionaires, the bank bosses, the CEOs, the scumbags and the liars, the governors, the lobbyists, the senators, because they're all the same, and you hang them.
Just remember all the good the purge does.
Good morning, everyone. It's July 26, 2018. I'm Eric. I'm here at Blacklisted News. Anthrax package left for Maxine Waters' office evacuated. Of course, this is probably a false flag. You know, one of them fucking idiots probably sent the package to themselves or something like that. This, after all, is Maxine Waters we're talking about here. So, a suspicious package labeled Anthrax, A-N-N-E-T-H-R-A-X, was left at the Los Angeles office of Representative Maxine Waters on Tuesday, according to the Los Angeles Fire Department. Portions of her two-story office building were evacuated as hazmat crew investigated. The employees were allowed back inside after the package was reported safe. The LAPD Major Crimes Division has launched an investigation, according to spokesman Mike Lopez. In quotes, "There was no evidence of any dangerous substance at all," he said. "They're probably going to investigate to see where this item came from." Authorities were called to the Democratic Congresswoman's office at 10124 South Broadway Street shortly after 2:30 p.m. There were no injuries reported. One person came into contact with the package but did not have any medical complaints, according to the Los Angeles Fire Department. Last month, Maxine Waters canceled events in Texas and Alabama after she claims a very serious threat was made against her. Can you trust anything this woman says? In quotes, "There was one very serious death threat made against me on Monday from an individual in Texas, which is why my planned speaking engagements in Texas and Alabama were canceled this week," Waters said in the statement. That said, Waters also told a Sunday congregation at the First AME Church in Los Angeles that God sent her to fight Donald Trump. So we assume that even if the anthrax was real and she set foot in her own office, she would be protected by divine power, so she might continue her crusade against the sitting president. Yeah, you can't hear it. So piss on it. So piss on it. There was one more. Yes. Bernie Sanders. This is on commondreams.org. commondreams.org. Denouncing America's debtor prison system, Sanders introduces bill to end cash bail. In the year 2018, in the United States, we should not continue having a debtor prison system. This comes from Jake Johnson, a staff writer. And of course I would agree with, and this is one of the very few things I would agree with Bernie Sanders about. A couple years ago, the Supreme Court ruled that excessive bails were unconstitutional because they were they made the county jails debtor prisons, basically, among other reasons. And of course, none of the counties or states or any of that have taken those rulings seriously. There are still millions of people held with excessive bail across this country. Taking aim at one of the most exploitive components of America's broke criminal justice system, Senator Bernie Sanders on Wednesday introduced a bill that would end the destructive and unjust cash bail process that keeps hundreds of thousands of people locked up at any given moment due to their inability to pay their way out of jail. Well, one of the things about going to court while you're in county jail is, number one, you show up in cuffs and shackles. And I know the judge is supposed to be impartial and fair, you know, all that crap. But seeing the person in these handcuffs and shackles, I'm sure, puts some sort of prejudice into that judge's mind, along with the orange jumpsuit that's most of the time way too big on a person my size. These two things really can create prejudice in your trial, and it just makes it so much easier to get out of your charges if you are not in county jail. In quotes again, poverty is not a crime, Sanders declared in a press release unveiling his legislation, which is formally titled the No Money Bail Act. In the year 2018 in the United States, we should not continue having a debtor prison system. Representative Ted Lieu, Democrat, who has introduced a companion bill in the House, added in a statement on Wednesday that America's money bail system is irrational and dangerous. People who are not a high risk but are poor remain incarcerated, while people who may be dangerous are set free if they have the funds. It's maddening to see that those with money can buy their freedom, while poor defendants languish behind bars while awaiting trial. And they do. Some of these people spend, 2, 3, 4, 5, and sometimes even more time behind bars, waiting trial. So, in quotes again, ungrateful Senator Sanders is introducing a bill that moves to end our justice system's reliance on money bail, Lieu added. Citing the well-known fact that the United States has the biggest incarceration rate in the world, a summary PDF of Sanders' new legislation argued that what's even worse is nearly a quarter of all people incarcerated on any given day in the U.S. are unconvicted, meaning they are sitting in jail waiting for a trial or a plea bargain or some sort of conclusion to their case. let me stop for a moment and tell you about plea bargains. Most often, probably, at least 90% of the time. At least. I would argue probably more like 97%, but at least 90% of the time. When you're arrested, when they file charges against you, they not only file the charge that you did. Say for example, I'm selling marijuana, and someone snitches on me. Well, when that happens, the police will charge you with the distribution of marijuana, but they'll also add in other charges that have absolutely nothing to do with the charges that's been lobbied against you. And the reason they do that is so that the district attorney, city attorney, whatever that position happens to be called in your neck of the woods, they do it so that those attorneys can approach the defendant and say, hey, if we drop these 3 charges, will you plead guilty to this last charge, or last 2 charges, whatever the deal happens to be. And most of the time, if the crime is drug related, at least here where I live, they will offer you a deal that includes no prison time. Now, most people, whether they are guilty of the crime or not, most people go ahead and take the plea bargain. And the reason the district attorneys do this is, number one, it helps decongest the court system, and number two, it keeps their conviction rates sky high. I think the conviction rate around here is over 95%. So, and it's for that reason. Again, the police charge you with things that have absolutely nothing to do with what you've actually done, so that plea bargains will be made at a later time. Yes, pre-trial detention is bad for society and bad for our criminal justice system. The bill's summary notes, in quotes, people held pre-trial are missing days of work. They are missing time with their families. Often enough, they run the risk of missing a rent payment and losing their housing. And this is true. Again, if you are sitting in jail before you're found guilty of anything, you are being punished before your conviction. Yes, but while the cash bail system has a devastating impact on the poor and vulnerable, it is a boon for the for-profit bail industry, which Sanders says rakes in between 1.4 and 2.4 billion each year. In quotes again, it has always been clear that we have separate criminal justice systems in this country for the poor and for the rich. The bill's synopsis notes, a wealthy person charged with a serious crime may get an ankle monitor and told not to leave the country. A poor person charged with a misdemeanor may sit in a jail cell. And this disproportionately affects minorities. 50% of all pretrial detainees are black or Latino. According to Sanders' office, the Vermont senator's new legislation would formally end the use of secured bonds in federal criminal proceedings, provide grants to states that wish to implement alternate pretrial systems to reduce their pretrial detention population, and withholds grant funding from states that continue to use money bail systems. It would also require a study 3 years after implementation to ensure the new alternate systems are also not leading to a disparate detention rates. Sanders' legislation has been endorsed by Color of Change and the ACLU. Both groups have been at the forefront of a nationwide grassroots initiative aimed at bolstering the movement to end money bail and eliminate wealth-based pretrial detention. It's time to end our nation's current system of cash bail that lets the size of your wallet determine whether you are granted freedom or stay locked up. Udi Ofer, director of the ACLU Campaign for Smart Justice, declared in a statement launching the effort last year. So, anyway, I thought I'd share this with you because, you know, it's very rare politicians try to do anything good for the people. Somehow, I think there's probably more to this. I hope everyone has a great day. Remember, kill the state before the state kills you.